Every now and then, the rules change quietly. No sirens, no headlines flashing across your phone, just small lines of text passed in offices that most people never see. And then one day, you're pulled over. Or a letter shows up in your mailbox. Or your insurance bill suddenly jumps and you have no idea why. And that's the moment people realize something important shifted. Without them, right now, drivers across the country are heading into one of those moments. Because the way you drive, what you can get fined for, how much you pay, and even how easily you keep your license is changing fast. Not next year, not someday. It's already unfolding. Most people won't notice until it hurts. This isn't about panic. This isn't about exaggeration. This is about knowing what's coming before it costs you money, stress, or your ability to drive at all. Whether you're on the road every single day or only drive a few times a week, these changes are going to touch your life. There are no exceptions, no loopholes, no I didn't know defenses. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most drivers are completely unprepared. Before we go any further, think about this for a second. When was the last time you actually checked if the rules you learned years ago still apply today? Because by the time you finish watching this, you might realize some habits you think are harmless are about to become very expensive. And quick question before we dive in. What kind of driving do you do most right now? Daily commuting, long road trips, or short local errands? Keep that in mind as you listen, because different parts of this will hit different people harder. Let's start with the change that's catching more drivers off guard than anything else right now. Phones, distraction, and zero tolerance. For years, people treated phone rules like suggestions. Something flexible, something you could bend as long as you were careful. That era is over. Across the country, distracted driving laws are being tightened, expanded, and enforced with far less patience than before. And the penalties are no longer symbolic. A few years ago, getting caught with a phone in your hand might have felt like a slap on the wrist. Annoying, but manageable. That's no longer the case. What's happening now is a coordinated shift. States that already had hands-free laws are strengthening them. States that didn't are adding them, and the consequences are climbing fast. First-time violations that once cost the equivalent of a dinner out are now landing in the hundreds of dollars. In some places, much more. Repeat violations don't just cost more, they follow you. And it doesn't stop with the ticket. Points are being added to licenses more aggressively. Mandatory classes are being required, and insurance companies are watching closely. Here's the part most drivers don't fully understand. Insurance companies don't care if you thought the rule was unfair. They care that you broke it. One distracted driving citation can quietly raise your premiums for years, not weeks, years, and the total cost over time often ends up far higher than the original fine. Now let's talk about what actually counts as a violation. Because this is where people get burned. Holding your phone even if you're not typing counts. Checking a notification while stopped at a light counts. Picking up your phone for just a second because it buzzed counts. Even if your car isn't moving. Even if you're in traffic. Even if you're just looking. The law doesn't measure intention. It measures behavior. If you're in the driver's seat, the engine is on, and the phone is in your hand, that's enough. Voice systems and mounted devices are allowed in most places, but even those come with rules. The phone has to be secured, not balanced on your leg, not resting in the cup holder, not wedged somewhere. You can grab it easily. And here's something people don't expect. Officers don't need to see you texting. They only need to see you holding the device. Imagine this situation. You're stopped at a red light. Your phone lights up. You glance down, pick it up, and check who it's from. You don't respond. You don't type. 3 seconds, maybe less. An officer notices. That's enough. No explanation will undo it. No "I was stopped" argument changes it. No warning is required. So what's the smart move now? It's not complicated, but it does require discipline. Mount your phone before you drive and leave it there. Use voice commands exclusively. And if something truly cannot wait, pull over fully and put the car in park. Yes, it's inconvenient. But inconvenience is cheaper than fines, insurance increases, and points that follow you for years. Cameras are everywhere, and they don't forget. If you still think speed cameras and red light cameras are rare, that assumption is outdated. Automated enforcement is expanding faster than most people realize. Cities big and small are adding cameras quietly, often without big announcements. And unlike officers, cameras don't give warnings. They don't consider excuses. They don't forget. What's changed recently isn't just the number of cameras, it's how sensitive they are. In many areas, the buffer drivers once relied on is shrinking or disappearing. Being a few miles per hour over the limit is now enough to trigger a violation in some zones. That means keeping up with traffic is no longer a safe excuse. Red light enforcement is tightening too. Grace periods that once existed are being reduced or removed. Crossing the line a fraction of a second too late can be enough. And here's what makes this especially frustrating. You often don't know you've been cited until weeks later. By the time the notice arrives, the moment is long gone. There's no memory to argue, no officer to talk to. Just an image, a timestamp, and a bill. Many drivers make a dangerous assumption at this point that camera tickets don't matter because they aren't moving violations. That's only half true. In many states, they don't add points, but they still have consequences. Unpaid tickets stack fees quickly. Late penalties can double or triple the original amount. Registrations can be blocked. Collections can be involved. And insurance companies are increasingly factoring these violations into risk assessments. So how do you protect yourself? Slow down, especially in areas you drive regularly. Familiar roads breed complacency. And that's where cameras catch people most often. Treat yellow lights as a signal to stop, not accelerate. And use navigation apps that warn you about enforcement zones. Not to cheat the system, but to remind yourself when extra caution matters. Alcohol limits and the shrinking margin for error. This next change is one of the most serious, and it's quietly reshaping what safe even means behind the wheel. For decades, drivers operated under the same assumption: stay under a certain blood alcohol level and you're legally fine. That line is moving. Several states have already lowered their legal limits. Others are actively following, and the direction is clear: less tolerance, harsher penalties, and far less room for judgment calls. What used to feel like a reasonable decision is now a legal risk. 1 drink, 2 drinks, a long dinner with friends. Situations that once felt normal are now enough to put you over the line in some places. And the penalties for crossing that line are heavier than ever. First offenses now come with fines in the thousands, mandatory programs, license suspensions, and lasting insurance consequences. Repeat offenses escalate quickly into life-changing territory. But the true cost of a DUI isn't just the fine, it's the legal fees, the lost time, the higher insurance bills year after year, the restrictions on your freedom. Many people don't realize how quickly the total cost climbs. By the time everything is added up, one mistake can drain tens of thousands of dollars over time. And it often starts with someone thinking, "I feel fine." That feeling doesn't matter, only the number does. The safest rule now is simple and absolute. If you drink, you don't drive. Not a short distance. Not because you feel okay. Not because it's inconvenient to find another way. Rides cost less than consequences. Electric vehicles and emissions. Costs you might not expect. Electric vehicles are no longer a future novelty. They're becoming mainstream, and states are adjusting quickly. For years, EV owners enjoyed the advantage of skipping gas taxes. That made sense. If you don't buy gas, you don't pay the gas tax. Roads still get used, but you weren't paying in the same way. Now, states are balancing the scales. Registration fees for electric vehicles are rising in multiple areas, some by $100 to $200 or more annually. Some states are also moving toward mileage-based fees. Simply put, the more you drive, the more you pay, whether your car runs on gas, electricity, or both. If you own an older gas-powered vehicle, you're not immune either. Stricter emissions tests are coming. States that have always been stringent, like California, are tightening even further. Others are joining the trend. Fail the test? You pay for repairs, sometimes several $100s, before you can renew your registration. And if you skip it, legally, you can't drive. This isn't designed to punish drivers. Roads cost money, and if everyone used them, everyone should contribute. But if you thought your EV or older car meant smooth sailing for registration fees, that assumption is about to end. The preparation is simple. If you own an EV, budget for new fees. They're coming. If you drive a gas car, especially one over 10 or 15 years old, get an early emissions check. Address any issues before the stricter rules hit. If you're buying a car soon, research incentives and fees in your state. Your choice could save or cost hundreds every year. The big picture? Know your state's policy. Ignorance isn't bliss. It's expensive. Street racing and reckless driving. It's broader than you think. Most people think reckless driving only applies to daredevils and street racers. Wrong. Across the country, the definition is expanding. Lane weaving, tailgating, aggressive acceleration, even frustration in traffic can fall under new definitions. States like Florida, Georgia, Nevada, and California are cracking down with serious penalties. Fines now reach thousands of dollars. Vehicles can be impounded immediately. Repeat offenses can escalate to felony charges. Even being a spectator is risky. Some states are fining and arresting people standing by watching a race. Why? Without an audience, the incentive to race diminishes. For regular drivers, this means even one impatient morning commute could be interpreted as reckless. Swerving around traffic, speeding to make a light, or aggressive lane changes could suddenly carry enormous consequences. Imagine this scenario. You're running late for work. You speed slightly over the limit. You tailgate someone who isn't moving fast enough. An officer notices. What used to be a minor infraction could now lead to fines of $1,000 or more, points on your license, insurance hikes, and possible impoundment. The rule here is straightforward. Drive calmly. Don't let frustration dictate your behavior. Avoid any reckless maneuvers, even just a little, because the legal definitions are widening and the stakes are higher than ever. License renewal. Stricter testing, no exceptions. Renewing your driver's license may become more complicated than you remember. Several states are expanding requirements for vision exams, written knowledge tests, and road skills assessments, particularly for drivers over a certain age. Medical documentation is now often required if you have conditions like diabetes, sleep apnea, epilepsy, or heart issues. For drivers who have spent decades behind the wheel, it may feel unnecessary, even insulting. But states are implementing these measures to improve safety and reduce accidents caused by diminished skills or health challenges. Fail a test? Your license could be restricted or suspended. Missed documentation? Expect delays or outright denial of renewal. Advice: don't wait until the last minute. Schedule tests in advance. Gather necessary medical records. Be proactive. This prevents stress, last-minute trips, and potentially being unable to legally drive. Parking and minor violations. The slow drain. Parking tickets, expired meters, and other minor violations are quietly rising nationwide. What once cost $25 might now cost $50 or $75. Speeding in a neighborhood might double from $100 to $200. The increases aren't arbitrary. They reflect inflation, enforcement costs, and policy changes designed to encourage compliance. The kicker? Many drivers overlook small fines, letting them accumulate. Digital tracking, automated enforcement, and collection agencies mean small oversights can snowball quickly, resulting in vehicle immobilization, towing, or suspended registration. The takeaway: minor infractions are no longer minor. Pay attention, follow posted rules, and treat every ticket seriously. It's far cheaper than letting fines multiply. How to protect yourself right now. After all these changes, it's normal to feel overwhelmed. But preparation is simple when approached methodically. 1. Stay informed. Check your state's DMV or official government websites regularly. Sign up for alerts. Laws differ by location. Don't assume uniformity. 2. Adjust driving habits. Mount your phone. Use voice commands. Obey speed limits. Stop at yellow lights. Avoid drinking entirely before driving. Complacency is costly. 3. Budget ahead. If you own an EV, anticipate increased fees. Older vehicles may need repairs or emissions upgrades. Planning saves money. 4. Invest in small tools. A phone mount, a Bluetooth headset, or GPS apps that alert you to speed and red light cameras cost very little compared to fines. 5. Respect the law proactively. Don't wait to be caught. Rules are stricter, enforcement is expanding, and the penalties are severe. Acting ahead of time is always cheaper and safer. The rules of the road are changing quickly, and the cost of ignorance is higher than ever. If this guide helped you understand what's coming, take a moment to protect yourself today. Share this information with friends and family who drive. Talk about it. Make plans to adapt, because every one of these changes is about more than avoiding fines. It's about safety, accountability, and keeping your life moving smoothly without unexpected disruptions. And now, a question for you before we close. Which change on this list do you think will affect your driving the most? Is it the phone rules, the cameras, the alcohol limits, or something else entirely? Drop your answer in the comments. Every insight helps others understand how real drivers are being impacted. Remember, knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. Plan ahead, drive carefully, stay informed, and keep your wallet and your freedom safe.